The dream of electric vehicles at Mercedes is over. The CEO of Mercedes has shocked everyone by stopping EV production and switching back to combustion engines. Remember when Mercedes promised to stop making gas cars by 2030? Well, they've changed their minds. The EV market is in trouble, with prices of electric cars falling by 30%. This raises a big question. Why is Mercedes having second thoughts about EVs and returning to gas cars? Were EVs just a big hype? A few years ago, governments around the world pushed car makers to switch to electric vehicles. They set strict rules and heavy fines for those who didn't comply. Mercedes, a leader in the luxury car market, was one of the first to commit to dropping gas engines. They aimed to have an all-electric lineup by 2030. Initially, Mercedes planned that by 2025, half of their cars sold would be plug-in hybrids or fully electric. This was part of their bold Ambition 2039 strategy for a sustainable future. But the reality has been different. EV sales aren't growing as fast as expected. Facing these tough market conditions, Mercedes had to rethink their strategy. Instead of going fully electric, they're now aiming for a mix of 50% electric and hybrid vehicles by the late 2020s. But even this goal has a condition. It will only happen if things in the market go well. But what exactly is slowing down the shift to electric vehicles? Are there hidden challenges that could explain why even a powerhouse like Mercedes is adjusting its course? Despite all the buzz around electric vehicles, people aren't switching to them as fast as expected. High prices, long charging times, and doubts about reliability are making potential buyers think twice. And it's not just in the US, where interest in EVs is cooling off. Even in Europe, where eco-friendly choices are usually more popular, Mercedes isn't rushing to go fully electric. The market isn't ready, and Mercedes isn't going to push it. Ola Källenius, the head of Mercedes, is no longer painting a rosy picture. Instead, he's planning for a future where gas and electric cars share the road. Källenius says it's all about giving people what they want, and right now, they want options. So Mercedes plans to keep making those sleek, powerful combustion engines along with their electric models well into the 2030s. The story gets even more interesting with the news that Mercedes is stopping the development of its new electric vehicle platform, the MB.EA Large. This platform was supposed to bring us closer to a greener, cleaner driving experience with cutting-edge technologies from the futuristic Vision EQXX, which boasts an impressive 750-kilometer range on a single charge. But due to slower than expected sales of their current electric models, the EQE and EQS, Mercedes is pulling the plug on this dream. Instead, they're going back to the drawing board with their existing EVA 2 platform, which powers the very cars that haven't been selling well. But what does this mean for you and me? If you're dreaming of a world where electric cars rule the roads by 2030, you might want to hit the snooze button on that dream for a bit longer. This big hint by Mercedes tells us that the auto industry might be tapping the brakes on the all-electric future, at least for now. This shift isn't just happening at Mercedes. The entire car industry seems to be hitting a pause on speeding towards electrification. Tesla is seeing a slowdown in sales, and big names like Rivian, Lucid, GM, and Ford are either cutting back production or putting their EV projects on hold. It looks like the automotive world is getting cold feet about making a swift move to electric. So, why the sudden caution? Well, it boils down to money. While sales of Mercedes gas-powered models have soared by 61.3%, their electric vehicle sales have actually declined by 12.5% last year. Even more telling, plug-in hybrids saw a 20.5% increase in sales. Ola Källenius, the CEO of Mercedes, recently opened up about the financial side of things. He pointed out that traditional combustion engines are still where Mercedes makes most of its money. He even said that making EVs as affordable as gas vehicles could take another decade, a clear sign of the economic hurdles still in the way of the electric market. The challenges don't stop there. The broader car industry is grappling with slow economic growth, ongoing supply chain issues, and geopolitical tensions among heavyweights like China, the US, and the EU. These factors are creating big headaches for car makers. And to add to that complexity, there's a component shortage, especially in the 48-volt systems supplied by Bosch, that's causing problems in production. But Mercedes is mixing things up with their new MMA platform, designed to handle both electric and combustion engines. This means future models like the CLA, GLB, and a compact G-Wagon will have the flexibility to go either way. But there's a big challenge coming from China that's causing some serious second thoughts. Chinese car makers, especially BYD, are slashing their EV prices, seriously undercutting what we usually see in Western markets. They can do this because China controls a huge chunk of the rare earth minerals that are crucial for making EV batteries. If something disrupts these supplies, it could make it a lot harder and more expensive for U.S. companies to make their own EVs. But it's not just about money and supplies. There's a darker side to this story. The mining of raw materials like nickel and lithium needed for these batteries comes with big environmental and ethical issues. We're talking about water pollution and mining practices that are so risky they're making people rethink the whole sustainability angle of EVs. While Mercedes is figuring out their approach, other car giants aren't just sitting around. Ford, for instance, dropped the prices of their Mustang Mach-E due to slow sales and pulled back on making more of their F-150 Lightning trucks. Meanwhile, BMW is taking a totally different route with hydrogen fuel cells, planning to roll out the iX5 Hydrogen by 2025, which promises an 800-kilometer range and a beefy 400 horsepower. So what does all this mean for the buyers? Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword. On one hand, the difficulties in getting raw materials mean EVs could get pricier here, making it tough for local manufacturers to keep prices down. On the other hand, companies like BYD can bypass these issues, potentially flooding our market with cheaper EVs and pushing other brands to the brink of becoming obsolete. And let's not forget the big picture. These raw materials are not only limited, but also come with serious environmental and social costs, affecting communities and ecosystems around the globe. But how are these issues affecting the reliability of EVs and consumer confidence? Are they really as low maintenance as we thought? Let's talk about the reliability of electric vehicles. You know how we thought EVs would be less trouble because they have fewer moving parts? Turns out they've got their own set of problems. We're seeing a bunch of recalls from big names in the EV world. Tesla had to recall over 1 million cars because of some issues with autopilot. And GM? Their Bolt are catching fire after crashes. Even Ford had to pull back a bunch of Mustang Mach-E's due to battery troubles. Not exactly what you'd call reliable, right? And here's something else. Fixing an EV isn't as simple as visiting your local mechanic. These high-tech rides can lead to some seriously high repair bills, especially if the battery gets damaged. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars for what might look like minor damage. So much for the savings on gas. But the plot thickens. Despite all the government incentives and tax breaks, people aren't buying into the EV hype as much as expected. Yes, sales are growing, but not at the blockbuster rates some predicted. It seems a lot of folks are still on the fence, worried about the high prices, the hassle of charging, and whether these cars can really go the distance, both literally and figuratively. So, what's the takeaway from all this? While EVs definitely have their perks, they're not the silver bullet for our transportation woes that some had hoped. Between the environmental concerns of battery production, the practical challenges of owning an EV, and those reliability hiccups, it's clear we've got a long road ahead before we can truly call EVs the vehicles of the future. Mercedes CEO probably made a smart move by sticking with combustion engines that are still reliable and selling well. If you enjoyed watching this video, check out this video.